Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite mother of two bougie vintage, and today's video is the start of a series that I'm going to be doing, which is on the 7 deadly sins. I'm hoping that it'll give you guys some enlightenment. Now, a lot of the times we're going through life and we're not really paying attention. The 7 deadly sins are things that we do and we don't even realize we're doing them. And so I just wanted to touch on each one because I'm pretty sure I've committed all 7. So I wanted to dive into it a little deeper and give you guys examples of how I've commit these sins so that you might see how you are doing it and you can change that about yourself. I originally was just going to be doing a video on anger, and then when I realized that anger was one of the 7 deadly sins, I decided to look a little deeper into the 7 deadly sins, and I saw what they were and I'm like, relatable. So that's why I'm sitting in front of you guys today. So the 7 deadly sins, if you're not aware, they are pride, envy or jealousy, gluttony, lust, anger, greed, and sloth. And so I'm going to be doing them not in any particular order, but I definitely am starting with pride because pride is like a gateway drug, okay? Pride is the gateway to the other 6 sins. So that's why I wanted to highlight pride today and give you guys some wisdom on this subject. So the definition of pride is the excessive belief in one's own abilities. By doing this, we interfere with our recognition of God's grace. And if you need even more clarity on the word pride, then we can call it vanity. So you know the song, "You're so vain." You probably think the song is about you, don't you? So before I come up with a lesson for a video, I find a quiet space, which is very hard to do in my house. As you guys know, I have 2 crazy kids and I sit and I pray. So usually I do this while the girls are asleep. And once I pray, I just ask the Holy Spirit to fill me with whatever it is that He needs to get out. I ask God to be present with me and to give me the right words to say so that I can reach the proper or the targeted audience. And if I'm being 100% honest, this is very new for me. For the previous content that you guys have seen on this channel, I wasn't really doing that. I always pray in the morning when I get up, but I didn't really pray specifically about my content or the video. And all of the videos that you guys have seen the last few days or last few weeks, I have had to write them out the night before I film. I knew that this was not the type of content that I could just come and sit in front of the camera and talk, which is usually what I do. Only a few out of maybe 1,000 videos on my channel have actually had written notes and organization. But now with this newer content, I really appreciate and acknowledge the fact that I have to ask for guidance and support to make sure that the right words are coming out. I can't even really express to you guys the amount of times in the last few weeks before I started my journey, how many times I would sit here trying to film and there would be a block. Like I was like having writer's block, but for filming, for putting new fresh content on YouTube. And it wasn't until I would pray or while I would be in the shower praying, that's my like little quiet time to really, I guess, get in tune with God, that new fresh ideas would come to me. Because a lot of the times, if you guys look at my older content, anytime that I've done something that was trendy, I tried to take it to the next level and do something that hasn't been done before, even though I was doing content that is being recycled. So that is because I prayed about it. That's because I asked for guidance. Give me originality. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to be set apart. And even when I was getting those fresh ideas would literally just pop into my head. I wasn't praying about it. I was praying in general. And so I wasn't really realizing or acknowledging His presence in those moments. And so I started to think to myself, and I'm like, had I embarked on a spiritual journey earlier in my life, I would have been so much more self-aware, and I would have realized that I had a lot of pride. I went through most of my life unaware of how much pride I was carrying. And so like in the first video, I'll reference my big move from one city to another city. Every time I was asked, you know, why did you move? For 4 years, my answer had always been, I needed a change of scenery, you know, fresh start, something like that. But I wasn't truly exercising my faith at that time, so I didn't realize that there was so much pride in that answer. I was so wrapped up in being poor and homeless that I didn't recognize God's grace when it was slapping me right in my face. A lot of the time, we tend to do things and we forget to credit God in the footnotes. Well, now he's reclaiming his time and he wants us to cite his work in MLA format at the bottom of each page of our life, because we've become so nonchalant about tiny miracles that we feel like we have or we had a hand in our own path or even in our own blessings. If you are a believer, then you know better than anyone that unless it's in God's will, it will not be done. You cannot receive it if it's not his will for you to receive it. That being said, like I was saying, for 4 years, I went around saying that I needed a change of scenery, when if God didn't will me to move all the way from Toronto to Ottawa, that is almost 5 hours. And if he didn't set up a whole entire GPS system that would reroute me, no matter what decision I made, I would have ended up here. But things were put in place that would lead me here. I ended up going through a crazy storm period just so that I would meet a girl who now I'm starting to think she might be an angel that would plant a seed for me to water it and then harvest it, which was obviously the move. Because think about it, I didn't have anything. Like, I was picking up my whole entire life and moving it to somewhere that I've only been to one time in my life, you know, maybe twice. I never pictured myself outside of Toronto. My whole family was there. My everything was there, but I didn't care because I've always been so independent and a risk taker. Like right now with this new content, you would think that I would consider this taking a risk, but it's not, because I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. And God has provided for me in a way that I don't have to upload my old kind of content. The new content that I'm uploading is for a certain group of people, and that is the only people I need to worry about reaching. And I use the term worry very loosely because we pray or we worry. We cannot do both, okay? But let me get back on track because we're talking about pride here. And a lot of the time we're exhibiting pride and we don't realize it. When we don't dive into the word, when we don't spend the time trying to find stillness and peace in his presence, we're setting ourselves up to unwillingly and unknowingly commit sin. This is the importance of studying and knowing the word, because a quick and definite way to self-destruct is having not too much pride, but pride at all. We cannot forget that we are human, obviously. It's just what it is. Therefore, no matter what we do, we're likely to sin. But I just want everybody to be aware of themselves. We can't be perfect. I'm no saint, even though I'm on a spiritual journey. I am no saint, never been a saint, and will never be a saint because I'm a flawed human. And God understands that, and that's why his grace is in place. But this is just to, this series that I've started now is to just give you enlightenment and bring awareness to oneself. I don't want you guys to be on your spiritual journey and continually be stumbling, you know? It's okay to not be perfect. I'm not going to say it's okay to sin, because we should be avoiding sin, but sinning is inevitable. So it's better that you're aware of yourself so that you could just be a better person, not necessarily a sinless person, because like I said, sinning is inevitable, but it's time to really work on ourselves and on our hearts. So back to what I was saying. I have a friend that is constantly finding it necessary to compare themselves or say things like, I'm better than this person, or I can do this job better than that person, blah, blah, blah. So in my last conversation with them, I lent them some grade A, God approved opinions, okay? I lent them some really wise advice, okay? And I'm not just saying that because it's advice I pulled right out of the Bible. And they told me I was being negative. And just as a side note, this is why once you embark on a spiritual journey, you end up losing a lot of friends, because if you're like me, where the old you died and you're renewed, your compatibility with certain people will change. So if you have a friend and they're not into what you're into because they weren't called to be at the time, then your relationship with them may suffer a little bit because you're just not on the same page spiritually. Whether it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your best friend, your mom, like it doesn't matter who it is. You have to be some way, some form equally yoked with them for you to truly have compatibility. And so your old self might be compatible with them, but your new self is not, and it'll be easy to get annoyed with them when you try to have logical conversations with them. Anyway, I asked them, how am I being negative? Did you even listen to what I just said? Because all I had told them was that they cannot claim that they're better than people or cooler than people, because those people that they're comparing themselves to are already established. They're already where they have strived to be, and you aren't. So if you're truly better than them, then maybe you need to kick it into high gear and prove it. I was trying to get my friend to understand that they need to humble themselves, because when I was asking them what makes you so much better than these people, my water is dripping down my neck. I cannot take it. What makes you so much better than these people? Their answers were silly. They were superficial, extremely weak, and plain old stupid. Like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. The answers that they were giving me was so dumb. Literally, one of their answers was, I'm cooler than them. I didn't even ask for them to elaborate, because I'm like, you don't sound cooler than them to me. Like, I cannot. I was literally sat there thinking, like, who blew smoke up your booty? Who blew the smoke up your booty to make you feel like you are so great? Like, who? Please let me know. I need to know, because I need some of that smoke blown up my butt too, okay? And so I realized that the pride or the ego that they were showing was because they are silently feeling inadequate in their field or in different aspects of their life. You can't compete where you don't compare, and you shouldn't really be comparing yourself to other people, because you're actually heading into envy and jealousy, and you don't even realize it. So right away, you're committing 2 of the 7 deadly sins. Needless to say, somebody with pride will not admit this. Somebody that is suffering with a big ego actually feels really small inside and uses it as a defense mechanism or a cover-up. Somebody with a lot of pride will be quick to dismiss you, especially if you're coming at them from a wisdom standpoint or a logical standpoint. They are not trying to hear that. They just want you to agree with them and stroke their ego. So, because I'm obviously going through a spiritual journey, but I don't want to shove it down my friend's throat, I suggested, hey, why don't you try this and see if it brings you to a better place? See if your mind will be opened up to newer, brighter ideas. See if you can advance in your career or wherever it is that you're trying to go. But of course, they weren't trying to hear that either, because people with pride like to take credit for God's grace and God's work in their life. One really important thing to point out about people that like this is that this is believers and non-believers alike. Some believers have a lot of pride and a big ego. Lots of pastors have big egos. It became very evident to me that people like to have or feel a sense of importance. It's like those guys that are always telling stories about how they rescued some kid from, who cares, some wild accident, or somebody that's always talking about, oh, I rescued a cat out of a tree. Oh, I climbed the tree and I got the cat out. Or even those people that are constantly sharing their good deeds because it makes them feel like they're doing something good. But a wise person knows that you never show your left hand what your right hand is doing. Period. Point blank. Okay? But back to my friend, because in my personal opinion, I was being supportive of my friend, but they weren't able to hear the support in the advice that I was lending them. Because I had even taken it a step further and I asked them, hey, what sets you apart from those people? What is your one special, unique thing that you can do to advance you because you're doing it differently than them, you know? Like, what sets you apart? And when I had suggested this, or when I had posed that question, I saw the wheels start to turn, but then they stopped. The reason that the wheels stopped spinning was because this person thinks that their talents are their own. And I'll give you the example of Beyonce. This is like if Beyonce were to say, I taught myself to sing, versus God blessed me with this voice, which is what she has said. God has blessed her and she doesn't know why. People have the tools they need to succeed, but they don't have the drive because they don't even know really if they're in the right lane or if that's really their purpose. And the reason that these roadblocks are set up is so that you will notice God and be grateful to him. But when you have a big ego or when you have pride, this is a very, very, very hard task to achieve. You can't be so filled with pride that you're puffing up your chest like you're some big bad old penguin. Meanwhile, you can't even remove your big head that's shoved so far up your God-given rectum long enough to even recognize how much you could improve your life by just erasing the idea that your ideas are even your own. Can I get an amen up in here? Somebody say neighbor. I can't. So when I'm talking to my friend, I'm coming from a place of I've been there. I'm coming from a place of this was my experience. I was doing it this way, but now I'm doing it that way because I see how much of a difference it's made in my life. And that's what I was trying to encourage them with. I realized that they were drawing blanks. They couldn't think like, what sets me apart? So I explained to them that until you lose that big old nasty ego, you're gonna be stagnant and complacent, because the only real way to advance in life is to submit to God. That's the only way. If you do not do this, you will be stuck. You will literally be stuck. You know how many inventors come up with things and then they can't move on to another thing? And they're like, why is this not working? Why? What am I doing wrong? Y'all don't watch Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, do you? There's people that literally pour millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars into prototypes and can't even sell one of them, and it's a great invention, but they can't even sell one. That's because they have not submit to God. That's because they have not given it to him and said, give me something else that will work. You know, why am I still here? Why can't I roll the dice and move past go? I'm the type of person that I will try every damn thing. Okay, not food wise, but in life I will try everything once I realize something's not working. So if this is not working, if I try to go to this lane and it's not working, then I'm going to try to go to another lane. If I go to that lane and it's not working, then I'm going to go to another lane. But in the midst of all that, I'm praying and asking God to guide me. We need guidance. Without guidance, we're lost. And That is the most important thing that people need to recognize. That being said, we all know at least one person that is ridiculously cocky and you just can't figure it out. You're not that cute. Your hair's uneven. You look dusty. Like, there's no reason for some people to be as cocky as they are. And we look at those people like, what is your problem? But then we don't realize that though we're pointing the finger at them, 3 are pointing right back at us. And we have also been cocky or overly confident in some area of our life, not even realizing it. When this happens, we're putting ourselves at risk to missing out on our greatest blessings. Not only our greatest blessings, but we can also miss out on our destiny. I'll be the first to admit that I almost missed my calling because I was too engulfed in the details that did not matter. I cared a little bit too much about my circumstances and what I was going through, and not enough about trusting God. I was so distracted that I almost missed my calling by ignoring it. God literally had to rip the rug from underneath my feet to get my attention, and he should not have to do that. I was there trying to fix things that I can't fix, control things that I damn well knew I could not control. And as God was there trying to get my attention to give me a serious break, I was telling him, not right now. Not right now. Like, I'm busy. How are we too busy for God? How are we too busy to serve the Lord? Like, who gave us life? Who? And so a lot of us tell God, not right now, you know, because we're living in a day and age where we are hustling and bustling. It's like your insides are the streets of New York City. Just busy, 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 busy. Go, go, go. You know, you don't take a moment to sit and get peace, internal peace. I've literally been in go mode since I was 16 years old. Since before I was 16, I've been hustling. I used to have little tiny businesses when I was like maybe 10 years old. I had a company called Bandana Brina. And I was making drawstring backpacks out of bandanas, and I was selling a lot of them. I was selling bandana accessories. So I thought it was really funny when I came and I made the outfit out of bandana, because it just brought me all the way back to 10 years old. So when we're acting like the Energizer Bunny and we're just in go mode, how could God ever get our attention? And because of this is how or why we become prideful. We're so worried about the next day that we're not paying attention to right now. What's important. Tomorrow is not promised. You may not wake up tomorrow. And then it's like, what were you hustling for? You are getting up every day and saying, I got to make this much money. I got to do this. I got to do that. And you didn't even pray. You didn't even turn to God and say, can you please take this load off me? Take it away. I can't do this by myself. I can't do this alone. I am hustling. I'm trying to feed 5, 6 kids, my grandma and them, like everybody. And I don't even have time to breathe. So many of us are living life like that. Like I don't even have a moment to myself, a moment to breathe. I don't have that internal peace. All in all, I'm stressed out. So when we're so wrapped up in the next day instead of right now, though the next day is not promised, we are essentially sinning. But once we accept that today is all we need to worry about, we will be able to set the time aside to hear God. We'll be able to set the time aside to know his will for our life, and we will be able to kick our pride to the side. So as I stated at the beginning, the gateway to all the other 7 deadly sins is pride. If you have an ego, if you have pride that you're not willing to kick, you are likely to go on ahead and commit 7 out of 7, and 7 is the number of completion, but this is not something that you want to complete or participate in. I'm going to reference James chapter 4 verse 10. Humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up. Now, I'm the type of person, you ain't got to tell me twice, okay? If you tell me you will give me all the help I need, you will fulfill my life, give me all my heart's desires, if I just ask you, if I just make time for you, and if I essentially obey you, you don't have to ask me more than once, child, okay? Just let me know what it is and I'll do it. And that's just how awesome he is. He's so awesome that people can't even fathom him. Like, they can't even fathom his existence because he's that awesome. And if you really take a look at your life, even if you've had a crazy, horrible life, look at how strong you are as a person. A fly is not gonna pitch upon you and you're gonna freaking cry. And there's people like that. So take heed, girl. Matthew 23 verse 12 says, "For those that exalt themselves will be humbled, and those that humble themselves will be exalted." We should only be boasting in the Lord. We cannot boast ourselves, okay? Without God, we're literally useless. Taking up space, okay? We can do nothing without him. And so people that choose to speak highly of themselves will be the first people to be told to take several seats. He will tell you, you should have just sat there and ate your food because you're out here looking dumb as the day is long. Another verse, Proverbs 11 verse 14. "For lack of guidance a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors." What does that mean? That means that you can't be afraid to ask for help. The people around you can even be sent directly to you to help you. You know, some people think that they really can do it all alone. Like the strong, independent black woman, girl, you better sit down and ask for some help. You know, you can't just put it all on yourself. And a lot of people's families depend on them. And that's when the real stress comes. Psalms chapter 100 verse 3. "Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture." You can't be out here thinking you're greater than the I am. Like, who is you? You know what I mean? We are literally his people. And if there was another way to make humans, somebody would have done it already. Somebody would have figured it out, but you can't. There's no way to make a human without using the resources that we already have. If somebody can make another human using no sperm, no egg, no dirt off the ground, nothing, none of the elements, if somebody can come and make another human, I will gladly and I mean an undefected human, I will gladly remove my faith, but it cannot be done, okay? You tell me how you got here, because this is God's earth. So you cannot take something from God's earth to create another human being, another life form. You can't do it. And that is how we debunk science. The last verse I want to reference here is Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18. "But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors as it is today." Do you hear that? This is why we give thanks. Because had it not been for the Lord on my side, come on now. Had it not been for the Lord on my side, honey, I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't have a home. I wouldn't have anything. He has blessed me with the ability to produce wealth. Your job is not your own. Your home is not your own. It belongs to the Lord until he tells you that it's being repossessed. This is real stuff. Like, this is legit. If he's not providing it for you, you can't have it. If it's not in his will for you to have, if it's in his will for you to move on from something, it will be done. You cannot run from it. And so you see, this is not old news. The wisdom that we're seeking is not hard to find. It's not far. Been right there this whole entire time. Until we take the time to enter into a room of complete and utter silence and feel his presence and pray and meditate on the word, we will not be able to see how he's worked in our life. And then we won't be able to remove that spirit of pride from our lives. I think it's important to pray for forgiveness, pray for strength, and most importantly, clarity. Reflect on your life and see how much credit you haven't been giving to God. See how many times he's come through for you on time. You might have $1 in your bank account and go buy a $1 scratch card hoping that you win, and you win $10,000 because that's God coming through for you on time. That wasn't necessarily the best example, but it's not far-fetched. There's a video that I saw a few weeks ago, actually, I think right when I was starting my spiritual journey, and I think it was used to keep me going. This YouTuber was going around knocking on doors in some neighborhood and asking them how much their rent is or their mortgage, and he was giving them that amount of money in cash. And so this one door in particular, I saw this on Twitter, this one door in particular, he knocked on it, and a Hispanic man or a Latino man answered the door, and he told him, hey, like, I'm doing a YouTube video. I want to know how much you pay for rent, and I'm going to pay it for you. And the man was basically breaking down to tears. He didn't believe that this YouTuber showed up at his door because he said he had just finished praying. He said, I prayed maybe last night or this morning. You know, I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent because I lost my job or whatever. I might be telling the story wrong, chat, but you'll find this video if you look for it. He's like, are you an angel? He asked the boy if he was an angel because he just could not believe that he prayed for this, because he didn't know how he was going to pay his rent. You guys, you're not hearing me. He didn't know how he was going to pay his rent, and a YouTuber shows up at his door giving him the amount of money he needs to cover for rent. This is not a coincidence. This was literally God sending him what he asked for on time. You know, because he didn't lose his faith. He had faith even though he knew he didn't have enough money, didn't know where he was going to get it from. Knock, knock, knock. There it is right there. Knock, knock. Who's it? Jesus. Jesus who? Jesus, I got your rent for you. Like, this is real life. And so it's important to keep your faith strong and exercise it, because if you just have a little bit of faith that the Lord is going to come through for you, oh, he will come. And he will come with an abundance. It's those moments, those times where you are like at your wit's end and you're about to throw in the towel. That is when God shows up and shows out, okay? That is when there is a mustard seed of faith in you. Just a mustard seed, okay? When there is that amount of faith left in you because you are like, oh, God, please, I need you now. I need you now is such a powerful phrase, you know? And when you are just about to give up, that's when God comes through for you. When you see how he's blessed you, once you remove your pride and your anger because things haven't gone the way you want them to go in your life, you think I wanted to get my when I was a child? You think I'm mad at God for that? Hell no. That's another story for another day. I'm not even gonna get into all that right now. Y'all don't want me to preach, honey. Y'all ain't ready. When you take a look at your life and you see how blessed you've actually been, and show your gratefulness and realize why you walked any storm you've walked and how you managed to weather it. Some people are so weak, God couldn't assign those storms to them. They're so weak they would break in two. You know, they're weak and they crumble under pressure. Baby, put me in the pressure cooker, honey. Put me in the pressure cooker, because I don't crack or fold under pressure. That's not how I was built. That's not how I was made. Warrior status, period. You know, and that's why I'm so focused on this mission, because you cannot sway me to the left or to the right. I'm standing right where I need to be. And this is because I know what's true. You know, I know what's true, and I'm not letting my emotional self get involved with this. You know, there's like a blockage there that cannot be penetrated. When I'm getting dragged now for doing this type of content, I will not be moved, baby. I will not be moved. But yes, I am going to link some Bible plans about humility and pride in the description box. Hopefully you guys have downloaded the same app that I have so you guys can follow along. And you know, you might not even need it. You might be able to click the link and it'll bring you to the website and you can access it there. But it's better if you have the app because then you can do your streaks and stuff and take your studying to the next level. I was watching Transformation Church and he was comparing using your Bible apps and reading the daily scripture to having a fruit cup every time it's time to eat. It's dinner time, I'm gonna have a fruit cup. It's breakfast, I'm gonna have a fruit cup. It's like a little tiny bit. It doesn't fill you. It doesn't, you know, bring satisfaction to your soul. You need to take it a step further, and devotion is how you're going to do that. So I'm gonna link it in the description box below. Be the light in somebody's life, child. You see this highlight right here? You see this beam? Be the light in somebody's life this week, today, tomorrow, whenever. And just keep your faith strong. I'm going to continue to post this kind of content so you guys can keep up with my journey and keep up with your own journey. And may we all be blessed by the Lord. I love you all so much, and I'll definitely see you in the next one, if it's God's will.